Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about UN resolutions, plural, two of them. And we're going to talk about what happened and what might happen next week because this is an ongoing thing now. And we're just going to run through the positions of various countries, the conventional wisdom, and then the debate that is certainly occurring. Okay, so if you missed it, the U.S. had its own resolution at the UN that was pushing towards a ceasefire. Went up for a vote. China and Russia, they exercised their veto, stopped it. Why, right? I mean, that's the obvious question because they've kind of been pushing for it. There's three reasons. One is they said that it was soft. It was soft. Is there any truth to that? They demands a ceasefire, calls for a ceasefire. The U.S. framed it as it's an imperative that a ceasefire occurs or something like that. So, yeah, from their position, from their foreign policy position, that's a defensible argument from their side. The other issue that they had with it was that they said it was written more for a domestic political audience in the United States. Is there any truth to that? Yes, but not as much. It's not as clear cut because certainly because of the pressure that the Biden administration is under, they did put a lot of extra detail and extra wording in it that didn't really need to be there for a domestic political audience. At the same time, it still would have opened the toolboxes to apply the pressure. So there is some truth to that. I don't know that alone is enough to veto it, though. The third one is they didn't want to condemn Hamas. Those are the three reasons. Okay, so the U.S. resolution is now, it's gone. That's done with. It probably still had some effect, though, because it illustrated, when we talk about Russia and China, we always kind of joke about it's a friendship without limits. No, there are always limits. And this did illustrate that there were some between the U.S. and Israel. So even though it didn't go through, it wasn't without effect. Okay, now Monday, there's another resolution coming up. This one demands an immediate ceasefire through Ramadan. It has the support, from what I understand, of Russia and China. The United States has said, well, that's going to impact the ongoing negotiations, the real ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Is there any truth to that? I mean, yes, there is. At the same time, the U.S. seems to be assuming that it would impact it negatively. I don't have the information to make that assumption. But one of the big asks from Hamas is a ceasefire. So if they're getting that, it is certainly going to impact the negotiations. At the same time, those negotiations aren't going anywhere. They're pretty locked up. Maybe a change in dynamic would be a good thing. Especially given the fact that Ramadan, it ends April 9th? So it's not lengthy. Now, under normal circumstances, if the U.S. is saying this is going to impact these negotiations, the U.S. would exercise its veto. I would imagine there are incredibly intense conversations going on about that right now, and will go on throughout the weekend from the White House, State Department, all over the place, because there are going to be differing opinions on that. And the reason, the cause for concern from a U.S. foreign policy standpoint is the humanitarian situation. There has reportedly been some increase in trucks going in, but it's still nowhere near the level it needs to be. The gates have to get open, the trucks have to go in. If the U.S. exercises its veto, and then there is an offensive into Rafah, and that causes civilians to flee, and it exacerbates the humanitarian situation as projected, the U.S. is going to own that. So, regardless of normal dynamics, because the U.S. is saying, well, this is going to impact these negotiations. Generally speaking, that is a guaranteed veto right there. I don't know that it's guaranteed because the situation is different. I don't believe the Biden administration wants to own that if it occurs. And if they use that veto and that offensive happens and what was projected occurs, they're not going to be able to say they didn't know it was coming. My guess is there are a lot of emails being fired off right now about this. I have no way of knowing how that debate's going to play out, but I can assure you that it's occurring. So that's where it sits. We won't find anything out about that until probably Monday. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.